What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Payrollin. I'm excited today to walk through a few different things with you, but the main principle that we're going to cover in this episode is how to nail down your messaging. This is going to be both for your sales and marketing efforts, and we have a great process that we use to not only nail down the messaging for our marketing team, but also for our salespeople, but ultimately just to help us create some clarity over who we're speaking to, what we're saying to them, and why it would be valuable to them to have a conversation with us. So if you haven't gone through this process, and even if you have, I highly suggest tuning in because we're going to take it a little bit of a step further than you probably have in the past. So thank you so much for joining me today. Let's go ahead and dive right in.
Welcome to Payrollin, the show where you will learn how to operate and grow your payroll business from the most dynamic minds in the business. If your company offers payroll services, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Matt Vaadi. Let's go.
All right, first up, before we dive into talking about what our messaging process looks like, how we create our content, what our content strategy is all kind of based on, let's talk about a few quick updates, what's happening around here. So first and foremost, we created a Payroll Bureau Owners and Leaders Facebook group. So if you haven't already got an invite to this, or if you haven't seen the emails come out, I highly suggest you go to Facebook, search it out. I know y'all, Facebook. Let me just tell you, I haven't been on Facebook. I'm 43 years old. I only created a Facebook account because our business profile had to have a personal account to have it tied to, and never had a single friend until I know that's sad when you say it out loud. I never had a single friend. But I didn't have any friends until just recently when I created this group, and I've started accepting friend requests. And then sure enough, out of the woodworks, just like I've heard about Facebook and why I've stayed off of it, all of a sudden all these people I went to high school with are trying to friend me on Facebook, which is totally fine and everything, but it's like, man, I haven't talked to y'all in 25 years now. Is, why now, right? So it's definitely interesting to see what's happened to everybody over a 25-year gap for most of them. Some of them it hasn't been quite that long, but anyhow, I know it's a little cringy to be on Facebook, but everybody's on Facebook. More than half the world's on Facebook. Their groups are very good as far as the format and how they work. That is really the primary reason I use Facebook, is just to be in industry specific or content specific or system specific groups on Facebook. So we built it there in less than a week. I think we got up to over 70 members with very light marketing. And so please share it with other leaders and owners of payroll bureaus. We are not letting in any vendors at this time. Seemed to be pretty much a consensus across the board that wasn't a good idea. I think people want to be able to speak openly in there. It is a private group, which is what makes it awesome, is that you can go in there and, if you're looking for a new white label payroll software, you can talk about the pros and cons of the different platforms in there. You can talk about your, hey, I need a new marketing team. I need a new, vendor for ACH, and not have to worry about them seeing the flag that you're signaling that you're interested in looking at other software. So for the time being, we're going to keep it purely to the leadership team and ownership groups of payroll bureaus. So if you haven't joined that already, man, the conversations that have already kicked off in there have been really inspiring. People asking some of those questions. Hey, I'm going up against Paylocity with a 125-man deal next week. What are some of their, where are they strong? Where are they weak? I'm interested in starting a PEO, or I'm going up against a PEO. What do I need to look out for? What's real? What's false? It's been really cool to see it already getting the type of traction that we had hoped for. So if you haven't joined that yet, make sure that you do, because I know you're going to get value out of it. But most importantly, go in there to create value as well. So many of you listening to this, there's somebody for, there's always going to be somebody out in front of you and always somebody behind you. So create value, provide value to others in the group, and let's all get better together. That was actually one of the first questions in the group is, somebody asked, should I be concerned if someone who's in my market or one of my competitors comes in here? Can I really be open and ask questions? And here's my mindset when it comes to all that is that, if you're too open, you may lose one or two deals here or there because you've provided value to other payroll bureaus. But if you're too open, you're also going to get a ton of value in return, that you're going to win far more deals than you're going to lose, because in reality, we're all trying to pluck clients away from the nationals. I know some of you may be competing head to head with your local counterparts day in and day out. We all are in some respect. But I really have no interest in going after their business, nor do I have interest in going after anybody's business who's listening to this, unless you work for one of the big nasties. So go in there, create value for others, ask the questions that you're hoping to get help with, raise the topics that you want assistance with, and let's just get better together. A rising tide lifts all boats. So Facebook group, it's called the Payroll Innovation Network, Payrollin. You like that? You see what I did there? I think we're going to end up changing the name, though. I just have been reading now. Again, I don't know a whole lot about Facebook, but Facebook groups, I guess the title needs to be a little more on the nose of like what it is. So it should be something more like owners and leaders of payroll bureaus, something just very direct. So it may change in the near future. So don't fall in love with the name. All right. So next section, let's talk about, what am I listening to? I've mentioned this podcast on the podcast recently. If you haven't checked it out, if you like tech, if you like knowing kind of what's going on in the tech industry, you're going to love it. It's called My First Million. Crappy name, awesome podcast. It's a couple of guys just riffing on, ideas, business ideas. They're talking about things that are working in Silicon Valley. They're talking about, both of them have made exits of 30 million plus, one of them multiple exits. They just have a really fun and unique perspective on a lot of different things. I've listened to, I think, every dang episode of the show. I don't miss a new episode. I always get, the thing is, it's entertaining and I get some new ideas, which is something we're trying to get better at here. Is I'd love to be a little bit more entertaining, right? So over time, I'm going to continue to work on making sure that we can be just as much educational as entertaining as we continue to bring you, more best practices, more things you can do to help build out your payroll bureau. And they also they were inspired by somebody else. They stole it from somebody else, which is what gave me such a great amount of comfort in stealing it from them. But the gentleman's agreement and the lady's understanding, which you'll hear more about at the end of this episode if you don't know what I'm talking about. And this is a particularly great time to subscribe to our YouTube channel because, A, you can see how crappy my new office setup is here, and I'm still trying to work out the camera and the lighting and all that, and it looks pretty Bush League. But also, we are getting ready to release a new video series in the next few weeks where we're going to take you behind the scenes on what is going on at Guru. And it's not behind the scenes just for behind the scenes sake. So for example, this coming week, we're recording one of our weekly level 10 meetings where we're talking about issues that we're trying to solve. We're talking about what's good. We're giving the headlines. We're going to be going through, some of the real processes that we do behind the scenes and kind of how we operate our payroll company. So for some of you, you may see it and laugh and go, man, these guys are really immature. This is not, we're so much further advanced than them. For others, you may steal some best practices out of it. But again, if nothing else, I think you're going to be entertained. The first episode we just filmed, and they're only going to be 5 to 10 minute shorts on YouTube, short videos. But the first one, we kind of got into a little bit about why we started this. We talked about where we're going from here, and I think you're really going to dig it. And I love your feedback. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Creating a ton of free content. I'm putting in a lot of time into creating this Facebook group, creating the Payrollin episodes. All I'm asking from you, we're going to move the gentleman's agreement and the lady's understanding to right here so I don't have to revisit it later. All I ask from you is to subscribe on the YouTube channel. Smash the 5-star on your podcast player. That's it. I'm putting a lot of time and energy into this. I don't have a lot of ask for you otherwise. I don't care if you do any business with us or partner with us in any way. Just please, just support it. Share it with somebody else. Share the Facebook group with other people. That's been the number one thing I've heard from people is so-and-so introduced me to the podcast. I love it. I listen to every episode now. It's the only thing like this for our industry. Let's keep it growing so that, I'd love to continue to create the content if people are continue to get value out of it. All right. So let's dive into the main event here, the main topic, and that is nailing down your messaging. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just walk through how we create content, our content strategy, the format that we use in our marketing agency. We've used this with numerous clients. It's just kind of a bulletproof format for nailing down your messaging. It's very simple. It's very approachable. It doesn't take hours and hours to do. And, if you ping me, drop me a note, I'll shoot you over the template that we use to do it. And, the unique thing for this is I'm going to talk through exactly how we use it for our messaging, which a lot of you can just steal shot for shot because you're doing the same things as us. You may be a PEO, ASO, you may just be a payroll bureau. A lot of this messaging is going to be the same for you. All right. So there are multiple elements to getting this messaging right. But the core elements are understanding the audience. Who are we speaking to? What do they care about? And what problems are we solving for them? Now, with our messaging, we want to know what's our unique point of view. We want to create some hub and spoke type of content off of that. And then we want to talk about distribution. I won't get into distribution today. Like I said, I want to focus on the messaging piece because I see a lot of you are talking to everyone instead of talking to a specific group. And you're talking about a whole bunch of topics instead of talking about some niche topics. So who are we talking to? Well, the first thing we want to do is kind of niche that audience down. So we've got broad audience, which would be a small business. So we work with small businesses. Well, man, there's a lot of small businesses, especially when you just say small businesses and don't geographically tie it to an area or you don't put a specific size on it. There's millions of small businesses. So that's a very broad audience. So now I could say we work with local small businesses. We work with small businesses in Columbia, South Carolina or South Carolina. Now I've taken that from millions down to thousands, right? So now we're getting into a much more niched type of content that we're going to create. Our messaging is going to resonate more. If I'm talking to a business in Columbia, South Carolina, if I say, hey, we partner with small businesses in South Carolina versus we partner with small businesses, now I've niched it down another level. But now we want to take it down to a sub niche. And this is where I think a lot of people fall flat is they just stop there. They go, yeah, we work with small businesses in Columbia, South Carolina or South Carolina. But if I take it down another niche and define those industries that I work with inside of there as an example, now you could take this a bunch of different directions, but this is just how I'm looking at ours. So broad audience, niche, sub niche. So for us, we then take that down a step further, which we say professional service companies or tech companies or nonprofits. We've actually got our sales staff are focused on specific verticals. Each one has 1 to 3 verticals. And, for us, I'm going to leave this for the sake of this conversation. I help professional service companies in South Carolina with less than 50 employees. So now I've gotten very specific with my audience. I still, professional services to me always feels a little bit broad. So I always like it a little bit more when we can dial into, I help nonprofits in South Carolina with less than 50 employees and sometimes, even 10 to 50 employees. So niche it down, niche. So now I can define that role inside of there as well of who I'm speaking to inside of that audience and get even more niche with my messaging. So I'm talking to owners of professional service companies in South Carolina with less than 50 employees. And I know a lot of you immediately are hearing this and you're getting FOMO. And the funny thing is the people who are getting the most FOMO probably are the people getting the least traction. So like your strategy of speaking to everyone with your messaging is actually what's killing you. If you target down a niche, you're going to grow way faster. You're going to cut through the noise. I probably said it on here 15 times. If I'm sitting in a coffee shop and somebody's sitting across the room and they're talking about, man, I provide insurance services to small businesses, that just goes in one ear and out the other. It's just part of the white noise. It's part of the ambiance. If they're across the coffee shop and I hear them say, we provide insurance services to payroll companies and HR providers, then my ears perk up and go, man, that's me. That's interesting. I didn't know there's a specialist over there who does something in my industry. So speak to the industry, speak directly to the people you're speaking to. All right, so we've taken that niche, we've brought it down to a niche audience, owners of professional service companies with 10 to 50 employees in Columbia, South Carolina, or in South Carolina. And again, you want to niche it depending on what you're doing. So, I mean, if you're running a local campaign in Columbia, South Carolina, then niche it down and say Columbia, South Carolina. Don't say South Carolina. I mean, heck, y'all know, I mean, Columbia is a small city. People think that if you're out of Greenville, which is an hour and 15 minutes up the road, like you're not local to them. So when you're talking local, talk local. Like even your state sometimes is too broad. So speak directly to the people. Your messaging, this matters so much. And for those of you like me that are really active on social platforms like LinkedIn, like write one post that speaks directly to an audience one day. Attention, Columbia, South Carolina business owners, with less than 50 employees. Like draw that, like point exactly to them. Be pointy, don't be round. All right. So we've taken our audience, we've broken them down a little bit. Now we want to take our topics and break them down a little bit. So we're going to apply the same philosophy, broad topic to a niche to a sub niche. So rather than talking about small businesses and what's good for small businesses, it's a pretty broad topic, ton of noise there, right? So for all of you right now sitting around thinking about starting a podcast or starting a blog that's focused on small businesses, like you're you're awash in the white noise. So now, if I take it down where I talk about small businesses, I talk about workplace culture for small businesses. Okay, now I'm niching down. Now I'm niching down a little bit. And so now my topic, I can niche it down a step further. And I could say, focus specifically on how a great culture helps you grow faster. So a great culture helps small businesses to grow faster. We help professional service companies grow faster by improving their culture. So now I've taken it, and you notice like I'm not browbeating somebody over the head with, we help professional service companies grow faster by purchasing our payroll and HCM solutions. No, we're trying to attract people to us with this messaging, not beat them over the head with a sales pitch. So talk about the things, the means. So I think last episode or 2 episodes ago, we talked about means does is. Talk about what it means to work with you. We're going to help you grow faster because we're going to help you improve your culture. And how we're going to do that is through our proprietary payroll and HR solutions and our dedicated HR staff that's going to help to support you. And what that is an ASO, so I'm not going to dive too deep into that. I don't need to give you all the messaging on what we do. But so work in terms of means, work in terms of benefits. What does it mean to the person you're talking to? What are the benefits? Not what it is or what it does. Again, if it's what it is and what it does, that's great. You want to hit that every now and then. So, and I do feel a little bit redundant. This is always the challenge with single episodes. But I think a couple episodes, again, we talked about Gary Vaynerchuk's book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. So like you want to keep the jabs are the value posts, the value messages. Like you want to create value, then ask. I know I've used the bank deposit analogy on here before. Like you don't just walk into a bank and take out money. You have to make deposits first. Make deposits with your audience, create value, give them templates, give them things that they can use, resources they can use, tips and tricks they can use, then make the ask. All right. So we've taken down our audience from a broad audience to a niche to a sub niche. We've taken down our topics from a broad topic to a niche to a sub niche. And I would recommend having 3 to 5 topics that you're going to talk about. So like culture is just one. You might have another one about HR compliance. You might have another one about, tax compliance, whatever your thing is. Like figure out what those niches mean to you, but start broad. So rather than talking about small businesses, talk about workplace culture, talk about how workplace culture helps you grow, narrow the niche. All right. So let me ask you a question. Are you the go-to person in your market for payroll and HR? Are you the first face and name somebody thinks of when they think about who am I going to refer this person that needs help with their payroll and HR support? If not, you might want to look into our executive LinkedIn management service through Underdog Digital. Underdog Digital is a sponsor of this show, and they've seen results such as, I'm looking at one profile right here where over the course of 6 months, they increased views by over 200%, more than 600,000 views on these posts in less than 6 months. Another one, plus 1,000% increase in 8 new conversations in the first 30 days. This is a tremendous service to help you to become the go-to person for payroll and HR outsourcing in your market. They create content for you, engage with other people in your space, send connection requests, and do outreach to generate conversations that do nothing more than create valuable relationships with your target audience. If you're interested in learning more about Underdog Digital's executive LinkedIn management service, go to underdogdigital.co. That's underdogdigital.co. Once we have that down, we can then start to think in terms of subtopics. So this is where we can get some of those other ideas from. So now I'm looking at some of the main ideas I want to discuss about this. We've got the audience. I'm going to dive more into the audience here in a minute because we really need to get to know them if we're going to speak directly to them. But right now, let's finish up here on the topic. So we help professional service companies in South Carolina grow faster by improving their culture and improving their benefits. Well, what creates a great culture? Well, the first thing that creates a great culture is hiring, right? So I can't have a great culture without great people and great leadership. So hiring is one thing. Now I've got a subtopic I can talk about, and I can connect the two. I can start to have cross posts. Hiring creates great culture. Now I'm helping to provide hiring tips and guidance, and I'm talking about the impact that has. Intentionality and leadership, that helps create a great culture. So now again, I can talk to the leaders like, you have to be intentional. Here are some tips on your day-to-day, during your day-to-day that you can do to coach up your team, that you can do to improve your culture. So I want to work in terms of then what are the things that create that great culture? Because those are going to also help me to dial in my messaging and give me a bunch of topics to talk about. One of the things people tell me all the time is I don't know what to talk about when I'm trying to, create our content, create our messaging. And this can apply anywhere. This can be for your website. This can be for your social posts. This can be for a book you're writing. This can be for your podcast, whatever it is. Start to take these things and put them together kind of in a matrix and cross them with one another. So small business growth combined with hiring, small business growth combined with being an intentional leader, small business growth combined with creating a great culture. And so then I've got multiple things I can write about. And then that I don't have any ideas thing goes out the window because I'm having a ton of ideas flow in as I start to go through this. And you can even hear me coming up with them on the fly. All right. So we break down our niches. So again, if you're going to go back to, you want to have like 3 or so sub niches and then subtopics of those niches. Now we've got a bunch of things we can write about and talk about that are meaningful to our target audience. Now, one of the ways that I help to break this down and think about it is, when do people not do these things really well? So when do they not create a great culture for their small business that helps them grow? Well, one of the main things, and I'll just go through, so I just start a list of this. And again, if you want to just email me, drop me a note in the Facebook group and say, hey, can you share that template with me? I'm more than happy to share this with you. I'll send it over. You can use it just to create your own version of this. So I've got reasons like, when they just let culture happen, when they don't have any processes in place, when they don't hire well, when they don't develop and grow their people, when they get bogged down in the day-to-day, when they're non-compliant and it takes up too much time, when they lack internal expertise. And so now I know the things that people, this is like overcoming some of the objections on the front end and like planting those seeds with somebody, the messaging on, okay, hey, here are some reasons why you might be blowing it when it comes to creating a great culture, which is ultimately slowing down your growth. And let's talk about all the things that kind of roll into that. So when do people not do these things well is kind of a next good thing to understand. And then I can cross the two. So the best CEOs don't just let culture happen. They're intentional. That all starts with hiring. They hire people who want to grow and provide the infrastructure for that to happen. But you can't do that if you're always bogged down in the day-to-day. And you can't grow with purpose if you have no HR expertise on your team and you're non-compliant. So you can see all these things start to kind of come together here. Once I know who my audience is, once I know what my subtopic is, and once I then know what are the themes of that topic that I want to talk more to my audience about. All right, let's talk a little bit more about the audience. So it's one thing to know, hey, I work with, small business owners of professional service firms in South Carolina. It's a whole other thing when I know exactly who they are. So I've got two gentlemen here that fit this profile for me that are the real people. So Jack and Duke. Jack is founder of a 15-person marketing agency. Duke is founder of a high-growth tech company. When I'm writing, I write to them, not to a hypothetical buyer persona, not to finance Jane, not to, build a small business owner. I write to Jack and Duke exactly how I would speak to them if I was talking to them, because they respect me. I respect them. We have real conversations. When I speak to them, when I write, if I write like I'm writing to them, then I'm going to write in a way that's going to be more compelling to the rest of that same audience. So again, whether that's web copy, social, email, whatever, we want to make sure our messaging is on point for the people we're writing to. And we can't do that if they're this fictional character and then we start writing in this like fake format. Again, write like you speak. People don't want to read like junk that reads like what you think marketing copy should read. They want the stuff that you actually read is written in a way that you want to consume it. So speak directly to these two individuals. Next up, I need to know, like, what are their motivators? What are their fears? What makes Jack and Duke, stay up at night? I hate that cliche as it rolls out of my mouth, but you know what I mean? What are they worried about? Well, these guys have both told me, point out, and that's the other thing too here is like, as I get into this next stuff, if I know exactly who they are and they're real people, I can pick up the phone and call them and ask them these questions. And if I can't, I can find two others who I can, that I can actually speak and ask this question. What are some of your motivators? What are some of your fears as it relates to the topics that I've chosen? So first of all, they're concerned about what they don't know, legal and best practices. We always say it all the time. Our new clients come to us, and most of them, particularly those that sign up for our ASO or PEO products, they don't know what they don't know, and they're just worried. Like, they've heard some HR compliance stuff. They know they might possibly be out of compliance with things, or maybe they don't even know like what's there, and they just want to outsource it. These guys are always trying to get better. That's what I love about these cats is they're dudes who are just always on the grind. They're always trying to get better. They both have employees in multiple states. So that creates challenges with hybrid culture and hiring, creates a ton of pain around that. They want to learn from those that have done what they want to do and have implemented best practices. So like, you need to flex your muscle with like your actual things you've done, not your coaching and hypotheticals. And so, they're not going to trust the latest guru, pun intended, baby. They want somebody who actually has done what they want to do. And so many of you listening right now are just like me in that you also run small businesses. And so they want to talk and engage with a small business owner that understands their unique needs. All right, next up. So we know what some of their motivators, what some of their fears are. We know who they are. We want to know what tone, what type of content do they prefer. So these guys want stuff that's useful, like how to, but it's fun and engaging, and it keeps them, entertained and engaged while they're listening to it. Going back to that podcast that I love, one of the main reasons I love that podcast is because it's useful, but it's a fun listen. There's probably 1,000 podcasts out there with very similar content, but the guys just don't make it fun. They don't create it in a way that's compelling to me. They do. So they also want how-to content that's easily applicable and more high level than in the weeds, right? So they want to be able to, they're visionaries, they're steering the ship, they got a team, they want to be able to, roll out the strategy, but they're not going to get deep in the weeds with it. They're going to give that stuff to their team to take care of. And they're growing companies and have limited time. The content must be helpful. It can't be fluff or BS. As soon as you start cranking out the platitudes and the fluff and the junk, like, you're just going to lose them, right? Like, they want stuff that's actually useful, things that, again, I use this analogy all the time. Give them the recipe. Like, even if they're not going to come into your restaurant to get your famous cake, like, if you give them the recipe, allow them to make the cake at home, maybe one time when they make it, they get, it's just too hard. And so they come into your bakery and they buy the cake from you. So when it comes to our world, payroll, HR processes, templates, best practices, like, we have so much stuff we can give away in terms of our content that people are just too scared. They think they're giving away that by giving away the recipe, somebody's not going to come into the bakery. Well, guess what? Eventually they get tired of baking the damn thing on their own and they come in and buy from you. So give it away now, per the Red Hot Chili Peppers. All right. So now when we're talking to the two avatars, what is unique about our perspective? So for us, when we're looking at what makes us unique. Well, we're also a small business like our clients. We're right in the same size and scope as most of them. And so that's something where we're we're doing the stuff that we're advising them to do. Like we're trying to create the, going back to that bakery analogy, if y'all have ever read the E-Myth Revisited, you want to create your business as if it is a franchise prototype. I think there's no better place than in our industry when you're talking about HR. Like if you're not creating a great culture, you're not compliant, you're not keeping up with things internally and showing. I literally only serve one client anymore just because they're good friends, and I continue to kind of be their HR guy, quote unquote. And, every time I'm prepping for the meeting, I'm basically just looking back over what we've done internally, to say, all right, hey, here are some good ideas for coaching. Here are some good ideas for, how you want to structure your benefits. Here are some good ideas for, culture building activities. And they're things that, we've done internally and rolled out with our clients. They're not just hypotheticals. Plus we've worked with, over 500 companies just like them. We're local. We know the area. So there's a lot of ways you can kind of, what's your unique perspective, but it's got to be unique to you. And like those first two, small business just like them, local, know the area, like ADP and Paychex can't do that, right? So they can't relate to them on that level. And so when you say, hey, we've worked with, X hundred or X thousand of companies, yeah, they can crush us there. Right. So that's a challenging one, but they cannot beat us on those other two. And so the three together creates a very unique perspective for the client. All right. So finally, and I won't get too much further than this, when we talk about the avatars, the two people we're talking to, those two exact people, we want to know where they consume content. So do they read a lot of newsletters? Are they in private Slack communities? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they listening to podcasts? Or they go to some associations? Like, post where they go. There's a reason why we're so bullish and we spend so much time on LinkedIn is because that's where our people are. If you sell to a bunch of restaurant owners, then LinkedIn is not the place for you, man. Like know your audience, know where they're going and create value for them and create tools and resources. That newsletter might be a dang good thing. If you've got a daily newsletter or weekly newsletter for restaurant owners and restaurant owners are your thing, like create value in that way. I've seen some great examples of that with folks. I know my good friends over at Works do a really good job of creating a podcast and resources for a lot of their more blue collar clients. That I know they eat that stuff up and they do a wonderful job with it. So, make sure that you understand where they're consuming it and, then think about from your messaging perspective, what's going to be your pillar content. So, for us, the pillar content, it tends to be in a newsletter, which we then break down to video, or we create videos off of the newsletter. We then create assets off of that. We create short videos. We create all kinds of stuff from the pillar. But there's got to be one thing that's either written or recorded that is the main thing. And then I've got another really good video. I think it's on the Underdog YouTube page on how we turn every piece of content into 25 pieces of content. I don't know if we ever publish that on Payroll, and I'll have to look. If not, we'll publish it here because I think it's really helpful when you think about repurposing content because people get really hung up on, the amount of time this stuff takes. So, all right. So in summary, know your audience. Know not only a broad audience of small businesses, niche it down and then sub-niche it down. Do the same thing with your topics, niche it down, then sub-niche it down. Have a couple of topics and then a couple of challenges around each of those topics. And then to know who your audience is, two exact human beings, two avatars that you can speak to them like you're speaking right to them, like you're speaking to them directly. And then figure out where they are, what they care about, and write things that they care about in the places that they care about. Sounds pretty simple when we put it that way, right? And what you'll see is you'll start to attract more people to your brand instead of pushing them away with more sales messaging. So hopefully that was helpful. Again, if you want to take a look at the template that we use when we put this together, don't hesitate to drop me a note in the Facebook group, or you can email me, matt@guru.co. And I'll leave you with the quote of the week here is, do the things you fear and the death of fear is certain. That's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote that I've had. I used to have it hanging in my cubicle back when I first started in sales, and I would get call reluctance, for lack of a better term. I've thought about it all every time we're doing something big, every time we're doing something new. I think about this quote, and we've been doing a lot of new big things lately. So I think it's no better time. So take the things you listen to today. Don't let them just go in one ear and out the other. Go apply it. Let me know how I can help you on your journey. I hope that you're building something special over there. I hope that you're not just doing it for the money. Do it to create impact in your community. Do it to create impact for your team. God bless you. And I appreciate you coming by today. Thank you. If you enjoyed that episode, please share it with someone else you know who might enjoy it and learn from this. And also, please rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast player. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen. And also, don't hesitate to reach out with other topics you'd like to hear more about. Thanks so much.